Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Monday's Wealth Creation Show. And today we're going to look at the points of pain, purpose, profit, and prosperity. The 4Ps, we could call it the 4Ps, that's not really what it was titled, but just that process of pain and all the way through to changing that so you've got a purpose and making that purpose profitable and ultimately your own prosperity and things as well. And that's what wealth creation is all about. Pain's a really interesting topic for us to kick off with, and I think it's good to delve into that because pain, clearly, as I explained, is not it's not something that people really like to deal with, and it makes them uncomfortable. But pain is quite a good driver for any situation to use your pain and change that into something positive and use it as a driver for something to push you forward. I mean, Jim, what do you think about using your pain as a driver and using it to achieve your goals and things in life?
You will either be pulled by your dreams or pushed by your circumstances.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing to remember. And it's interesting because Stephen Bartlett was talking to a psychologist this morning about certain things on Diary of a CEO. And he actually came out with this and actually said, and it's funny, we're talking about pain now. He says, change will only happen if the perception of pain is greater than the perception of the pain on change. So in other words, if it's more painful to stay where you are, and it's less painful to change, then you will change. That's at the time. So that's the pull by your circumstances or push by your dream. Push by your circumstances, pull by your dreams. So in this instance, he's talking about being pushed by your circumstances. If the pain is greater for staying where you are than it is for changing, you will change ultimately. It doesn't mean to say you've got to go and make it so painful for yourself.
No, but it is definitely something, and you could relate it to any aspect of life. But obviously, we go back to obviously estate agency and property letting and things because it's what we do and within the industry. But pain's a big driver for people selling, buying homes, moving house, renting accommodation. Do you know these kind of receptors push them to either sell the property and buy another one, or move from the current let property and rent another one, because something isn't right and it's pushing their pain receptors, and that's what makes them take action. So to implement that into your own prosperity and generating your own profit and wealth is something that if you get a grasp on and learn how to do, can be really a useful tactic.
I've seen people deliberately go out their way to make it so painful for themselves, and that's not the right way to do it. In other words, make it difficult for themselves in order to push them into a situation where they will actually do something.
Yeah.
It sounds bizarre. You would do that to yourself, but they don't realize they're doing it. Self-sabotage.
Yeah, definitely.
But the change for change's sake, to get the excitement, to get the buzz that they want, the buzz that they get from like what happens. And I know it because I've experienced it myself.
Around that.
Yeah, I've experienced it myself, Richard. It's like you will become, you don't realize you're doing it. You will become self-sabotaged in order to get some sort of excitement because you're bored. Your brain goes, wait a minute, I'm not getting the usual hits. I'm not getting the burst I'm getting. I'm not usually getting the dopamine hit, the excitement. I'm not getting the energy within myself. That's what that is, by the way. Let's call it runner's high. That's what that is, what you get with the pain. So you can also get pain other ways, which is effectively equivalent to the runner's high that you get, which is the pain it derives. It's the same mechanism it fires off in your brain in order to give you that high. So that's why people sometimes self-sabotage, whatever it is, whether it's a relationship, whether it's your business, whether it's a friendship, whether it's your money, where you are right now, and they deliberately engineer it to make it so difficult for themselves. It gives them that excitement back, even though it's destructive. Taking drugs, becoming addicted to gaming and alcohol as well.
And smoking and drink and drugs.
All these addictions that you get as a result of that, as a result of people inflicting possibly that pain on themselves in order to get that excitement and that dopamine rush that they get from it. And this is why we'll talk about drugs, for example, And yes, this is from experts, by the way, because I've just listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is why when people introduce themselves with cannabis and they go, oh, cannabis is okay and it's fine and it should be legalized. And it's like, yeah, it maybe should be legalized and controlled in a certain way, but it is the gateway to something else, because there's no doubt about it. The CBD, or it's in the actual, it fires off the dopamine rush you get as a result of it. Actually, that's what stops you from trembling and Parkinson's, by the way.
Yeah, I've seen that, and it's quite amazing what it can be done.
The dopamine.
Used properly, yeah.
But this is why you have to keep doing it, because what happens is your body builds up a tolerance to it. It's like a balancing. It's like scales. It's like you've got pleasure, you've got pain. So as soon as you put pleasure on, it puts the scales out. So here's pleasure going down because you've got weight on more pleasure. But pain is going, wait a minute, we'll need to balance this out. So pain deliberately engineers something within you in order to try and balance it out. But what happens is it overshoots, and therefore you stop. And this is what happens. So then your body goes, wait a minute, we've got to balance ourselves out. So we need more pleasure. See where the addiction's coming from?
Yeah.
And then it goes again, but it doesn't even out, by the way. It goes down again. And then this one goes, wait a minute, we need to balance out. We need more pain. And then therefore it inflicts pain again. And it keeps going like this until you let it level out. You just need to stop the addictive behavior in order to level out.
Yeah.
That's what that is. The difference between the pain and the pleasure. It's always going to have to be level within you. But the difficulty here is you've got to make sure you don't overshoot and you don't constantly try to keep that. That's why people are addicted to gaming. Because of the pleasure that gets it. That's why they're addicted to. That's why people are addicted to being trolls on social media, because they get attention.
Yeah.
And it excites them that they get attention, so they become trolls. You know, got nothing to do in 2025. Why not become an internet troll?
That sounds crazy to say that, but it's true. People do that. Yeah.
But that's what people do. They get excitement from that. You know, the things that people say sometimes. Oh, it's not going all well, and everybody goes, "Oh, you okay? You okay?" And everybody starts to give that person attention when they say that one soundbite on social media, and therefore they go, "Oh, I'm excited. Oh, I'm getting a wee bit of rush from this. People are now noticing me. I'm getting attention." And that's what it's just like a child. That's how a child becomes destructive, because it knows it gets attention every time it becomes destructive. It'll get the attention regardless if it's because of negative. Whereas when a child is becoming as well mannered, as just doesn't do anything to upset anybody, everybody kind of ignores that child. They don't reward it or anything like that. So therefore, they crave attention, so therefore they go into destructive cycles. And if you give them attention on a destructive cycle, woe betide you, because it will continue to happen.
Yeah, and it just prompts it to keep going. Yeah.
And as an adult, it works exactly the same way. Trust me.
Yeah, I think as well when you talk about it, I mean, I think it's fair for us to say that, you know, substance and alcohol and gambling addictions and things are ways of people masking elements of pain in their life. And I was going to say inevitably you do have to then eventually confront these pains, but some people don't for the duration of their life. But the majority of the time people do. And when you do confront it, you really need to do it head on. And like you say, get back to an even keel or level things out. And I've wrote points down here, and it brings me nicely onto the first point about deciding not to, or no longer to be a victim. Because there's a lot of, in society, I think it's kind of woe is me. And I think that's quite a lot. I see it quite a lot in people.
Learned behaviour.
Yeah, and possibly, I mean, I've been there in the past, possibly you have as well, Jim. Do you know, and you learn from that and you become a different person. But how do you get to that point? I mean, that's quite a difficult thing to deal with and work through.
I don't think you realise it's happening. I just think it's learned behaviour without you knowing, that you begin to realise that you're getting more attention because you're now playing the victim. It's easy for people, because then you've got the other side of that is there's a lot of people out there that will want to be the person, the saviour, because then they get a rush out of it as well. They get the hit between the knight in shining armour, if that's the case.
The one that comes
that
to
sort
rescue,
of thing. Comes to the rescue. So this is the whole thing about people get enjoyment out of helping other people. That's what I love about what we do. We help people manage their life as it happens.
Yeah.
We help them invest for their future. We help them grow as a person, or we help them to different levels in what they want to do in their life. That's effectively what we're doing. As they're experiencing it, we help them through that natural process, and that gives us the buzz. So everybody's getting everything off everybody else, but you've got to be careful you don't become addicted to it for that reason. I mean, this is a lot. The pain is definitely the purpose as well. You're purpose driven. You're potentially, we talked about how does that manifest itself? Well, profit is a result, doesn't it? So when we help people solve their problems, we get rewarded for that in money, and therefore that's what generates profit, and that's what gives ultimate prosperity to the people working within. That's the whole point of being paid to do a job of work.
Yeah, purpose, and it's like, well, let's take for myself, for instance, purpose initially. I mean, predominantly as, it's lettings and investment and being an investment specialist, and the reward I get for helping people build that and helping them through a painful process where they don't know what they're meant to be doing or where they're meant to turn to, and getting the right advice, and the reward that I get from them is obviously their gratitude and their thankfulness, but obviously we make profit out of that and run a business. So and ultimately prosper. It's like it's a knock-on cycle, definitely.
Yes, yeah. That's it's quite good at that. I think you talked about, you go back to the first principles about pain and how to leverage that. You can be pushed by your circumstances. When I first started it, I was pushed by my circumstances. Homeless and unemployed are two circumstances you certainly don't want to be. Couch surfing in people's houses for 2 or 3 weeks is another position you don't want to be in. So you kind of think to yourself, no fault of my own, by the way. It was no driven by me, by the way. It was just one of these things that happened. But then when you're at that situation, then there's only one way you can go, and it's up. You can't really go any further down from there, to be honest, unless you're no longer here. But that was never in the cards. And then eventually you get your first house, then again, it's the pain, it's the mortgage, it's the car payments, it's the utilities, it's the council tax, it's the food, it's everything, it's the having to go out, and it's like it's the pain that comes as a result, is you're not able to do the things that you used to do when you lived with your parents, because therefore you've not got the income anymore because it's going on everything else. So it's probably that pain then it drives you to think, I need to do something. Hence the reason why I went back to college and thought, I need to go back to college. I need to learn. I need to specialize in something in order to add value to what I do.
Yeah.
Now I'm talking about adding value as in, think about what adding value is. I'll give you two extremes. An hour with me or an hour with Richard Branson. Which one do you think's more valuable?
Yeah, obviously with Branson.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say me.
Well, if you want to do another Richard, an hour with me, an hour with you.
I would have said Branson as well. An hour with Branson. But you see what I mean, though. It's still the same amount. It's still the same hour. It's 60 minutes. It's, what is it, 3,600 seconds or whatever that comes to, the 60 minutes times 60. But you've got to understand, it's the knowledge and experience and expertise and the value that that person adds in that 60 minutes is the most important thing. So it's not an hourly rate anymore, it's the value add. So that's why you would want to then, your pain is driven to learn some more and be better at what you do, therefore being valued more, therefore your compensation that you would get as a result of every hour that you work, or your knowledge and experience and expertise is more than what it was as just as a window cleaner, as I was before.
Yeah, because then you're honing your skills and developing who you are and your ability to do things, which then in turn obviously increases the amount of people that will look to you for obviously advice and use your expertise.
Look at it this way. I remember Mark. Mark was a great friend of mine, worked alongside me. He was a trainee accountant at the time, but he was a bouncer before. So he went back to study his professional exams in accountancy and started from scratch and
Yeah.
studied in accountancy. But he's now the managing director of a global group company. And that's as a what he's done and what value he's added to himself, and his worth to other people. Remember, it's not your worth to you, because you're priceless as far as you're concerned. Because if I said, I'll give you 6 million for your arm or your leg or your I'll give you 6 million for that arm, I'll give you 6 million for that arm. Well, no way. Well, you've immediately put a value of more than 12 million on yourself. So why then are you just getting paid 20 grand an hour? 20 grand an hour.
That would be all right. That would be good.
Wait a minute, that's me. That goes back to our other podcast, getting paid 20 grand an hour to buy one property. That's an interesting one. If anybody wants to know about that one, look back. How to get paid £20,000 per hour for buying one property. 20 grand an hour to buy one property. That's what you're getting paid. Anyway, that's another podcast. 2 or 3 back from this one. Anyway, so that's how you add significant value to you. So you're only worth what someone else is willing to pay for you. So you need to acquire the skills and expertise in order to do that. But then it's the purpose you want to be driven. You don't want to be in a job that you don't really want to be in. I mean, if you don't like people, then you shouldn't be in a job which involves a lot of people.
Customer service and face to face.
If you've not got an aptitude in analytics and numbers, then you don't get a job that's going to be analytics and numbers. If you are theatrical, or you're an entertainer or a stand-up or whatever it is, a public speaker, then you probably want to be in that sort of
realm.
That sort of maybe a broadcaster on the radio, television, social media, TV, all the rest of it. You want to be in that sort of sphere. But you want to be the best at it in order to monetize it, in order to be one of the best paid in that field. For me personally, it's a job for a job's sake isn't something I would always ever wanted to do. I would say there was no way. I used to get completely bored after a couple of years in a job, and it was primarily down to the fact that I've done enough that I can do in this job to make it efficient and to make it produce what it's meant to produce and more. In other words, multiply my efforts. In other words, if I'm getting paid 20, at least my job will create maybe 100, 200,000 pounds worth of business as a result. So therefore, I'm justifying my existence in this job. And that's how I built the job, because the job was just a basic job before. And I would bring it down to 2.5 days rather than working 5 days to do the same amount of work. So I could bring in more to the job to do. But I then thought, after a period of time, once it got monotonous, it's like, well, I've put systems in place so a trained monkey could do this. There's no point in me being here anymore, because I'm not the trained monkey anymore. I don't want to do that. I want to go and build and be excited. See the excitement that you crave as a result.
Speak about
it. I would rather go to something else. You've got to watch when you employ people like that. Because then you've got to watch out for people like that. If they jump from job to job, this is a wee tip for anybody on your CV. If I see you jumping from job to job, overall, I think, well, you're a serial starter upper.
Yeah.
You just like the excitement of getting started, but then you get bored after a while doing the same thing, and that's not the type of people I want. The type of people I want to be creative, but they also more importantly, want to be solution orientated. So if you give them a task, they'll go and work out with little guidance about how to achieve that task without needing to come to you every 2 seconds to actually do it for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Or they're quick learners. That would be another one as well. Somebody that's maybe reads a lot as well is a real good, somebody that reads the right books, the positive mental attitude books, the business books, and all the rest of it, and wants to grow as a result. That's probably the people that you would want to have part of your team. But there is a place for people that just want to do the mundane, definitely, in a team, because it's not just about if we were all the creators and leaders, then nobody would do anything.
Yeah, but too much. Everybody has their own roles, and I think there is people at that level, and then there's other people that fit into these general, day-to-day admin things. But do you know that the jobs for job's sake thing, a job for job's sake, is quite relatable, I think, when you talk about that. And it puts me in mind of people in factories and things, and there's nothing against that. But speaking about even my own experiences, I mean, go back 20 years when I had not long left school and things, and I ended up in a factory, and I was there for a couple of years, and I thought, I can't do this forever. Do you know, it's just so mundane. Like, I'm just here for the sake of it to get paid. And I ended up going back to college and studying, and obviously led me to what I do now. And I'm glad I've done that, because if I was still in a factory now, I'd be tearing my hair out, to be honest. But anyway.
I don't think you would know any different.
Well, I wouldn't, but I obviously made the decision to change
because
that.
What happens is you become the sum of the people that you associate with.
Yeah.
So I don't think you would actually realise it was any different, because then you merge into that lifestyle of, let's go out for the weekend, let's all get lashed together, let's all have a team together, let's all play together, let's all do it, and that's great. But if you want to build some sort of wealth, and you want to build security, and you want to build maybe a professional career, that's no the way you're going to build it. Doing that, and just working on the production line. But remember, somebody's got to do it. That's all, and that's fine if they want to do it. Matt Mentor's always said to me, Jim, somebody's got to wash the car. I went, yeah, I never thought, like, I used to think of that like derogatory, like they're looking down on something, or somebody's got to wash my car. And it's like, no, what they were saying really was they're being realistic of the fact that no, everybody can do what you can do. I mean, I can't run the fastest 100 meters like Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to do that. So do I get annoyed about the fact that that's no fair? You're able to run the 100 meters faster than me. You should be handicapped or limited in some sort of way, because that's no fair on me. No, but that's how a lot of people work on social media nowadays. That's no fair. You've got a house. You've got several houses. You're a landlord. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. I should be entitled to have a house. Sorry, what's your position? Oh, you're on the dole. How are you going to buy a house on the dole? Sorry? But you're entitled to it, are you? Really? For doing nothing.
It's amazing.
For doing absolutely nothing, you're entitled to have a house for doing nothing.
Yeah, I think
but there's people out there actually think like that.
Self-awareness as well. I mean, a lot of people don't have a lot of self-awareness.
The entitlement culture. This is the rise of the social media, the trolls about, creating this sort of environment where it's like, you're entitled to this. Who said they're entitled to it? Just because a number of people all think they're entitled, then say we're entitled, and you get in the same fraternity as them, and then all of a sudden you think you're entitled. You're not entitled. Nobody is entitled to give you anything. You have to go out there and get it.
Put yourself out there, yeah.
I mean, Norman Tebbit, you might like him or no like him, from the Conservative Party years ago, says, you just got to get on your bike and do something. Get out there, get on your bike and look for opportunity. Stop blooming sitting in the house on your bum. Yeah, that's what he said. And there was a lot of people upset about that. It's like, that's ridiculous. How does he have the right to tell me that? He's all rich. And well, probably because that's what he did.
And the people that would probably be offended by it are probably the people.
And the people that didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it, so I'm going to pull you down because it's highlighting the inadequacy in me.
Yeah.
That's what that is. By the way, if you're offended by this, you're on the wrong show.
Go. If anybody's watching and do feel like that, then
you're on the show. You're on the wrong show. Get away and look at somebody else's show.
I'll watch the numbers decline. No, I'm only joking. But I think it's important that you are really clear on what you want, and if you are clear on what you want, and the way that you use your pain for feeling that way as a driver to get there. Like I said, an example, like if you're in a factory job and you don't want to then use that, like, I can't do this every day, use that as your driver to go and re-educate and look at something else to do.
Yeah. That's a lot to do with it. This is all about building your dream. What do you really want? What do you really want out of life? And that's a big task to ask, because you're never asked that at school. Schools never teach you to be entrepreneurial. Schools never teach you to run your own business. Schools never teach you to do your own taxes and tax planning or anything like that at all. They don't teach you anything like that. They teach you probably to educate you to work for someone else, and probably be fearful and just pay your taxes. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a reflection on the teachers, because the teachers can only do what they can do within the framework they are given, and the framework they're given is prescribed by the governments.
There was an experience I had at primary school, and actually, and God, I don't even, my teacher will still be here, Mrs. Donald, and she had us run a business. She actually had to start up a business, and we just made badges and sold them, but it was the whole business plan and things, and it was really interesting. And I was quite good at setting us up. We were just going to high school and things, and we done all that. And I think back to that, and I think, God, you don't get that. So she was kind of outside the box in terms of what teachers teach, and we loved it. And I thought that was a really good thing, but it's not part of curriculum in any school really. And I thought that was quite a different approach. So I kind of commend her for that, because it probably put a lot of us, and there's a lot of people I was at school with are now kind of local businessmen and things as well. So maybe that worked. I don't know.
It does instill in the right people, probably at the right time. It's the point of readiness for some people when they're younger. It's just like anything. It's the point of readiness. If you're at school, secondary school was never my point of readiness. We can safely say that. When I was asked to leave, that's it. That was never my point of readiness. But suddenly, 3 years later, I go back to college, and then all of a sudden I excel. Because that was my point of readiness. I realised after homeless, unemployed, I've got to do something else. I've got to really build this for myself. I've got a future to get. I'd met Elaine at that time. That obviously gave me purpose as well. See, purpose, how it
And a
fits
bit of
in.
stability and things as well. Yeah.
I knew eventually family would be coming as well. And it's like, and then I met my mentors at the same time. And that wasn't luck. That was preparation. In other words, everything had been happening so far to me throughout my life was all preparation for that point of readiness when it came along for the opportunity. That's what I believe.
And you say about your point of readiness, obviously at that time, and obviously previous to that, you weren't. What changed in that space of time where then you ended up at college, a wee bit of stability and a relationship, and then finding mentors and things? How did you get from there to there in between, do you think? What changed in you? What made you change your thought process? Thought, this is what I need to do, and this is what I want to do.
The college was a revelation. That obviously when I didn't have anywhere to stay, and I was having to, I think we ended up staying at Elaine's auntie's for a while, and I started looking for other opportunities at that point in time, and then I started to get my eyes opened a bit more, because I was taking on a CompuTeach. If everybody remembers that, I think CompuTeach is still going.
I think
Where they were going to teach you how to do computers at that time. And I had no idea how to work a computer, by the way. So it was Alan Lothian that actually took me on this and says, you want to come along? And I sat for a day and got an induction into this. And you were going to have to pay them 1,200 or something to do the course later on. But then that inspired me about, I could do something with that. And it popped back in my mind. And then it was the knockback I got at the final interview for the RAF. So the Royal Air Force. I got the knockback from the commander for the RAF, because I hadn't really talked it through with Elaine that much. And he says, look, come back. We'll probably take you. We'll definitely take you once you've sorted out with your partner, because we're not in the habit of splitting people up. And we know that will happen more than likely because you've never discussed it with. So I never went back. But I saw an advert in the paper for college for doing finance and computer studies and business. Just a national certificate. And I thought, actually, I wouldn't mind doing that. And it was literally within a week it was meant to start at Fife College, and I applied for it and I got on. And it was a week. It was going to start. It was going to start a week later, literally. And it was just, I saw it. So I think the CompuTeach thing put it in my mind to set it up for later on. And I thought, well, I'm going to get this paid for me. I had worked 3 years anyway, so I was going to get a bursary towards it, because you had to work 3 years with national insurance contributions to get a bursary towards your education at that time, and obviously get a wee bit of support with your finance. I'm not really sure if I did get any support at all, to be honest. But I did. I got free education in that as well when I went back to college at that time, because I worked 3 years, as I said. So it was a great help to me, and it was the point of readiness. But it was all these things that probably led me to that, and thought I may as well do this business and computer studies and see what that's all about. Bumped into my friend at the time, who's still a friend today, and then took it for there. And then it was the year in that then began, because I thought I was a write-off in accounts, to be honest. I thought accountancy and would never meet. Yeah, I mean, I got an F in my old grade. An F isn't even mentioned, by the way. You get an E at the very worst, and an F is just you get no mark at all. And I didn't get any mark at all, so I failed miserably in accountancy. And then they put me on the higher course, apparently, which was stupidity at its best. But I was halfway through before they realised that this guy's not going to be able to do this either. Not even get an O grade at it. So I never got that, and I failed miserable at that as well. So I thought accountancy is not going to be for me. But we see when I got in that course and I realised about statistics, bookkeeping, all the rest of it, I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. I love this. I love the numbers thing, the accountancy and everything like that. And I excelled in it. I was getting 100% every single time for every exam, 100% all the time, all outcomes as well. And it was like, folks, so you're a natural at this. And I'm like, really? I feel miserable at school.
It's funny how that, and then when you get to college and you've obviously you resonate a lot more with it and how it all adds up and how you kind of just then fell into it, but realised how much you were good at it and just how much it did.
I would never in a million years leaving school think I was ever going to be involved in accountancy ever, let alone be the top performer in accountancy 3 years at the college and in the professionals as well. For 3 years, that's a revelation itself. But then see the dopamine, the recognition and all the rest of it comes about study and everything. So it just led me to study more and more and more because I was always getting awards for things. So somewhere in Fife College's cabinet for the Carter Cup in accountancy, there is my name for in 1988, maybe something like that, 89. Accountancy, Carter Cup diploma, and the professional exams as well. There's something. David King from the managing director of Silverline actually gave me the award at the Adam Smith Theatre for the #1 student in National Business Computer Studies and National Certificate level as well. So Dr. David King, aye. So I always remember these things. But it was that recognition. Then see how the recognition and the cycle and as comes the result. So when you lift people up, they get excited about it, and they probably want to do more as a result of it. So there's a wee bit of clue there to do that. So it just started to float my boat, and I thought, well, this is me. This is kind of a last chance. It's like you were written off at school. You had nothing going for you. You were going to be a window cleaner for the rest of your life, and all of a sudden you've got this opportunity, and you now excel at it. Wow! I could be a millionaire. I could be a millionaire as an accountant.
Yeah, it's quite amazing how you come to that point at school, and then all.
By the way, nobody ever becomes a millionaire as an accountant.
I know. But it's amazing how you come to that point of leaving school, and then all these wee seeds and points in between that kind of led you to that point of taking that action, and then look where it got you. And then, like you see, all these kind of acknowledgements and things as you were becoming more competent and in that field pushed you even further in that to become really successful in it.
I've got to admit, there was various mentors that I did look up to at that time that were perfectionists at what they did that drove me forward in what I did. And I began to become that perfectionist. So when people would go out for a cigarette, I would stay and study. Because I then started to realise the more I did that, the better I would get, and the more ahead of them. Yeah, because I always saw everybody as a competitor. Because again, if you're winning accreditations and that, you were the adulations you would come with that, and the recognition it would come with as well. So I wanted to be #1. So I knew if I was going to be #1, I had to stay and I had to study harder than everybody else. I had to work harder than everybody else. I had to all these different things. I remember going through the accountancy book, and I actually did the book twice, maybe 3 times actually, and that's how I learned. I just started from the beginning of the chapter. And I just went through each book, and I did every single exercise. The examples that you get. I used to do all the examples as well in the book.
Really?
Every single time.
It's quite a dedicated approach as well.
And then I used to get to the end of the chapter, and it'd have questions for you to do, and I would do them as well. Did them 3 times. So as soon as I finished the book, I started again. And then no surprise when I got to my exams, I got a distinction, which is the highest that you can get in an exam.
Sorry, that's quite interesting, because then you say that, but a lot of people might think, oh, I've just not got the ability to do that, and you're obviously a lot more.
Train yourself parrot fashion.
But then they just go through that. I mean, that's the general accountant's book that's issued with the course or whatever. Just go through it and through it and through it.
Because I'd been through the books that much, I could actually see the page in my mind.
Yeah, it's like visualize.
It was almost photographic. So when it came to an exam and I had to answer a question, it was almost word for word, because I could vividly see the page in my mind, and I could see the section that actually says it and what the words were in that section. That's how I remember most of it from my exams.
I suppose the key there is repetition. I mean, if you repeat anything enough, then it'll be
repetition is the mother of all skill. Tony Robbins says that. Repetition, definitely. And it's been able to do that. And at that time, no, I never really knew anybody at that time. They never knew I was studying. See, when we used to go to the bingo, on a Sunday night, and I would take my study books. So while everybody else was doing something else and talking between the half hour and the break, I used to sit and study. I used to sit and read one of my books on auditing or tax or anything like that for that half an hour, and then we'd go back to what we're doing. That's the sort of dedication I had to what I was doing, my craft. Because I always saw it as, I need to be the best in what I do. I have to excel in this. It is something it matters to me to be number one.
And to get to that kind of level, and people might think, oh, but using every single minute of your time and applying yourself, and people might think, well, but then what's an extra 4 minutes doing that going to do? Well, it's 4 minutes ahead of what everybody else isn't doing.
4 minutes compounded over a year.
4
minutes every day. So 4 minutes. Let's take 365 days times 4 minutes divided by 60. That's another 24 hours.
A whole day.
And typically, in order to specialise in just one subject, it's about 40 hours of learning just to know that subject. And I'm doing 24 hours extra just by doing 4 minutes a day.
Just be even doing 4 minutes a day, yeah.
Yeah, so you could easily, I don't know, and imagine over 10 years, if you did that 4 minutes every day, over 10 years, you'd know 5 different subjects to an exceptional level. Over 10 years, just by 4 minutes a day.
Yeah. Yeah, when you break it down like that, or add it up like that, should I say, it definitely makes sense.
So you had mentioned it about clearing what you want, the objectives and everything going forward, and I was pretty clear at what I wanted. I wanted to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
There's very few people actually say that and actually achieve it, because then you have to quantify exactly what that means to you as a millionaire. But I just wanted to be a millionaire. I just wanted to have £1 million. That was it. For no rhyme or reason, I just wanted it. I wanted to have that. I wanted to be the first person in my family that was a millionaire. That's what drove me.
You achieved it relatively quickly. And you mentioned there about having the right mentors and picking up the right mentors quite early on. Do you think mentors...
That came later on, believe it or not. The mentors actually came later on when I was working at Tillis Russell. So that would probably be around about a year, 92, 93, something like that. 93 maybe. Yeah, the mentors started to get introduced to them. They started to talk about reading the right books. I never read books at that time, by the way. After I'd left school, it was like, I don't want to read another book in my life. If I ever see another book, I'll scream. It's like, I hated reading. Hated it. Detested it. Couldn't stand it. Didn't see the purpose of it. Waste of time. But yet when somebody says, we'll give you £1 million to read, it's like, give me that book. Give me that book. Where is it?
We talk about reading quite a lot, and it's like, I don't hate reading. It's finding the time and finding the right environment to sit and actually read, and creating that. And that's a really important thing. We spoke about that last week as well on the show.
Yeah. Give me that book, because that's going to further my goals. And the reason I believed them, because they were multi-millionaires.
They were successful in their own right.
Yeah, they were successful in their own right, and I began to think, listen, if I listen to these people, they're not going to take anything from me because they're not getting anything out of me. I'm literally paying £3.50 for a tape, which has got experts and advice on it. I'm literally paying £5 for a book that I would have bought off the shop for £5. But they're recommending the right tapes and the right books to read to at that time and the right function to go to. Now, while I had a bit of objection to go to functions because of the time and effort and the money for it, I began to see over time the necessary requirement to learn all these things. And I never appreciated how the business world is tens of thousands of pounds a year to learn what I was learning for a few £100 a year at that time, if not just £1,000 at the most. And that was all going into here and knowledge and expertise and advice and information that would pay dividends in years to come. Because once you learn it, you can't unlearn it, can you? It's like it's like me telling you. Imagine if I told you and you were convinced that there was another world in another dimension, and you were convinced there was another dimension, and I gave you a glimpse into it where you were a multi-millionaire with a lavish lifestyle, and you had everything you ever wanted and more. Imagine if you were convinced about that. How hard would you work to get there, knowing that you can have that as long as you do this, this, and this, and this? Well, that's the stage I got to, where it was like, when my mentors convinced me, it's like, if you do that, and that, you will get that for definite.
That's something I was going to say to you, because like, just say when anyone kind of realizes, right, this is what I want to do, and in your case, you're like, I want to be a millionaire, I want to have £1 million, and then to get to there, do you know, some people might make that decision about what they want, and then maybe think, okay, and they start to maybe get a wee bit self-doubt and fear and procrastinating things. How do you get over that? Did your mentors help you?
No, I tell you what I did. I want to be a millionaire, but there was other things as well. I wanted a Rover Tomcat, which was a 220, which was a Rover 220, which is the fastest production car on a track. I wanted one of these. I wanted a castle. I definitely wanted a castle. I want to have a castle, I want to live in a castle. I really wanted something like that. So these were sort of huge, audacious goals at the time that I really wanted. But do you know, when you got to that point where you could afford that, then you went, yeah, I didn't really need it that much.
But it got you there.
I wanted it, but I didn't need it. Because then you're taught throughout the process. It's like, really, do you want to spend? I mean, the castle at the time, when I was looking at it, was 750,000. It was Kelly Castle, by the way.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes. Nice. It went up for sale years ago. National Trust bought it, obviously.
I was just going to say it's part of National Trust now. Yeah.
It was something like 600,000 to 700,000 to get it. And honestly, there was an opportunity, and I thought, didn't be daft. Don't be daft. Just stupidity. So it was never to be, and it never will be, because I now realise it's like a total liability having something like that. It's just like, you buy things like that just to say, like, look at me. That's all. That's no, it's a status symbol. I don't do status, because status doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
Status was never going to pay the bills. My fancy car that I was in, my fancy house that I was in, my fancy job that everybody goes, oh, you've got the best job in the world. Oh, you're so high profile. Oh, you're in industry. You're a financial director and all the rest of it. Oh, bow down to you. That was never going to pay my bills.
No, and the thing is,
my wealth was. My wealth was, and the car that I never bought, that I should have bought, saved me £2 million over 20 years. And that £2 million set me free, because I was able to invest in other things. The house that I was going to buy, the bigger house, the castle, it's like that saved me all the payments I would have had to pay for this castle, and all the ongoing costs that I would have had to pay for the castle. And I was able to invest that to set me free. So what did I care about what anybody else thought?
And it's what society kind of programs us to think about, like, get into this job, get into a higher paid job as you can to afford all these material things, and have all these bills, and it's
the whole thing's rigged.
One big circle.
It's rigged. If you limitless win on deck now, the first thing they say when somebody wins is, what are you going to spend it on? They don't say what you're going to do with it now. Every single game show now says what you're going to spend it on. We're driven in a consumer society. There's an expectation as soon as you get money from everybody, from the media especially, that you're going to spend this money on something. No, I'm not going to listen to what they're saying. I'll do with what I need to. I'll invest it first. And then if I've got some left, then I'll use it. Or I'll invest it to generate more money so then I could use that money. And I've still got my capital at the beginning. That's the point. And that's what that's all about.
There's an element of kind of conformity in that. It's like, oh, I'll do what everybody else is doing.
Of course it is. When I lived with my mother and father, I remember 3 or 4 doors up. It could have been the Davidsons years ago. I'm not really sure if that's their name. But I remember they used to have to, if my dad got a car, they would have to get a better car. When my dad got a caravan, they had to get a better caravan. Everything had to be better. Needless to say, they lost their house and they got repossessed. But
really,
that was a really good lesson for me.
Joneses or keep up with the Parkers.
Honestly, that was a good lesson for me. And I was only probably about 12, maybe 14 years old. And I remember that time where they got everything taken off them. They had nothing left. And I do remember that. And I think, and these are things that stick in your mind, and you think to yourself, that's never going to be me. And see what I mean about other people's failure is what you can learn probably from the most about. You know, why did they have that failure? How did they get into that situation? How did that all come about? That's the sort of thing you've got to think about, is what can you learn from someone else's failure rather than having to do it yourself.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at ways to do things like are more profitable by using your position as your pain receptor and things, and your purpose to do things that are more profitable than just your 9-to-5 job.
It's I know you've gone about profitable, but there's an interesting one you said about silencing your giants here. Yeah. Okay. So when I was building my business and I was investing heavily in buy to let, there was a real drive from other people to see me buy things. And I really mean it. You know, when are you going to get this fancy car? When are you going to get this bigger house? When are you going to get, you know, there's a drive even from the people around about you, your closest, your family and friends. When are you going to get that bigger house? When are you going to get this? When are you going to get that? When are you going to get that? Who's all, you know, they're all going on holiday to beautiful places. You know, they're going to America, they're going to Florida, they're going to France, they're going to all these different places. We never went any places like that. Because every single time I used to think about myself, it's like, how much you paying for your holiday? 3,000 or 4,000. Oh my God. At that time, I could buy another flat with the bank's money and put a deposit down because it was 90% loan to value. So I could buy another flat with that. I ain't going on holiday. I'll buy another flat. So I just used to buy more. Every time I got money for the things that I really wanted, I used to think, you really want to do that, or you want to buy another flat, which will set you free even quicker.
It's the difference between
it'll get you to the £1 million even quicker. It was just how quick I could get there, and I began because as I said, I don't really resonate with things that much. I just like being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. So I think that was the most important things. But the amount of people that actually tried to get me to conform was absolutely unbelievable. And I'll tell the story before, and I'll tell it again. You know, where I used to walk up and down one of the worst streets in Methil, doing all the houses, and at the weekends after, you know, I was a financial controller at the time in industry as an accountant, and I used to walk up and down the street in my paint and overalls, and my cleaning products, and my wee step ladders to my properties, because I had properties in the same street that I lived in, and the people in the back gardens used to laugh at me. I said, "Oh, come on, Jim, come and join us, have a drink." You know, with the barbecues, and it's like, no, I'm working on this. Jim and his wee pail of paper and all the rest of it, and you know, he's like, oh, there he is working away, painting these houses, and you know, cleaning these toilets. Get these toilets cleaned, Jim. Get these windows cleaned. And it's like, okay, fine. I was quite lucky because I was a window cleaner in the beginning, so it was no big deal for me to go in and clean a window or clean a toilet. Even though if I was the managing director of a company, I'd still do it. Again, it's status. a lot of things hold people back is status. What will other people think of me when I do that? You've experienced that. You've seen me out cleaning the windows at the front of the office before, and it's like in my suit. You know, I'm sitting cleaning the windows, and there's people walk past and going, "What are you doing?" I'm cleaning the windows. That's what I'm doing. It's like, okay. And I even had somebody say, "Are you falling in hard times or something that you're having to clean the windows?" No, do I have to fall in hard times to clean a window? Like, because to them it was a status thing, and it's like, again, I come back to saying, I always remember, status doesn't pay my bills.
No.
And so it was all about the Silas and the Giants was a real good one, and it develops procrastination, self-doubt, especially if you've got status.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a person that's got a fantastic vehicle just now, and I've actually said to him, I think you need to get rid of that because I think that's holding you back. And it's a real high quality vehicle.
Yeah. It's a liability.
I think it's holding you back. I think you turning up to the country club in your big flashy vehicle is your status symbol and makes people think that you're important. When in actual fact, it's like, well, that's not going to pay my bills. I'm just going to get on, roll my sleeves up, and get on with it. But a lot of people are just afraid of the flack they'll get from the people around about them because they want to change. But it's a bit like the crabs in the bucket. You know, if a crab starts to climb out the bucket, the other crabs will haul the crab back in, and it won't let it out the bucket, to the point that they'll kill it
rather than
stop it. That's a bit like the peer group that you're in right now. If you try to change, woe betide you. Watch the peer group turn on you. They will. If they're not ahead of you, you're in trouble. Because some people want to see you get ahead, but certainly not ahead of them.
Oh yeah,
so they'll be their biggest champion, but as soon as you get ahead of them, it's like, oh well, wait a minute, you can't be as more successful than me. Whoa, that's what happens. Definitely.
It's interesting you say about the flashy car and things, and Lucinda's jumped in the comments here and said people don't understand the concept of opportunity costs, and we've done a whole show on that, John. Opportunity costs.
Because they're conditioned differently. They're conditioned from school. They still remember everything. They still remember the group conformity, just to be like everybody else, to fit in. All these different things. This is what people. They don't want to relive the past about being bullied at school for no fitting in, for being an individual. But everybody, it's amounted to something, has gone through that process and gone, fuck yous. That's what they've done, isn't it? That's what they've done. They've just gone, to hell with yous, I'm going to do my own thing. I couldn't care less. I'm going to be a lone wolf. Somebody actually said it about, you've got to be in another group of other people. And I've actually commented at the weekend and says, to be honest, I'm a lone wolf.
Yeah.
I like working on my own. I like building something on my own. I'm okay with that. But what I've really got an expertise in is probably collaboration with the right people.
And realizing that you need certain people
So when it comes to what I need, I then know the right people to collaborate with in order to get that goal or that desire that I'm after. That's what I do extremely well. And I'm a collaborator when I need to be, and I'll help someone else if I need to as well as a result of that. And it's always like, at the end of the day, the other person that you collaborate with and myself, all we think about is what is in it for me if I do this. You've got to think of it like that. You can't just do something for yourself. You've got to think about, when you speak to someone else, what is in it for them. That's how you have to pitch it.
I mean, you talk about collaboration. I mean, you could go back to, you spoke about back in the early days where you would collaborate. People like the banks and things about you buy to let.
I'm collaborating on them now.
Products
1.6.
Yeah.
1.6 portfolio.
So yeah, and then in the early days, it was collaborate with the banks to for their best interest and for yours to come up with this, because there wasn't any like buy to let products and things back then. So that's something that you had to work together on to then leverage your position to make you be able to build your buy to let portfolio and obviously create profit and things and prosper in your own right.
Of course it is. Of course it is. And that's the sort of thing. So your advice here is gear up your face to face your giants head on to come. That's it. And the first thing, as I say every single time, as soon as somebody starts criticizing you for what you're doing, is like, are you going to pay my bills? No. Well,
No.
shut up then.
Yeah, and don't listen if people are like that. But and as I say, society, it's a thing that's really kind of overshadows everyone. You do feel like you do need to conform and listen to these people, and you don't. Do your own thing. If you think you could do something different or something that's going to benefit you better, then what does it really matter what other people say or think?
Yeah. And then that leads you on to this final bit about, the smart ways to be profitable. Yeah, but if there's something that's just as important as oxygen and right up there with it, it's money.
Money, yeah.
Not the love of money. That's not what it is. But you need money to do anything in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Try doing anything with money. Try walking in a shop and saying, "Could I have that coffee for nothing, please?" Try walking in a car showroom and say, "Can I get that car for nothing, please?" Try walking in anywhere and saying, "Could I have that for nothing?" Yeah, they might do it once, but they'll certainly never do it again. You need money for it. Try getting yourself sorted just now on the NHS if there's something really wrong.
You wait a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, you will. Imagine if you've got the money just to go and pay and get it done. Oh, but you're jumping this queue, everybody shouts. Aye, that's fine. You've obviously not got the money. That's why you're having to go at me for it. So that's what it's like. That's the bully. That's the crabs in the bucket. We want you to be just like me. So we're going to haul you down. That's no fair. How do you get to jump the queue? Because I worked my backside off and I worked smart and I put all the effort into it and I developed wealth in order to be able to do that. I'm entitled to it at this point in time because I've worked for it. And that's what people out there will be saying. And that's probably the people that should be watching this show, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think we said earlier, probably if we were saying things earlier that maybe offended people, then it maybe is the wrong show. But I mean, we're definitely all
Look at it this way. Look at it this way. When I went out to Necker, right, and we found out what they were getting paid to take us on the dive, it was like $170 for a 2-tank dive, right?
Yeah.
So 2 tanks, in other words, 2 dives. And I worked it out, and this is the British Virgin Islands, and I'm thinking to myself, $170. There's 8 people in this boat. Then multiplied it at 170 times 8. So they're making $1,360, which is effectively £1,000 for a massive boat, 8 tanks of air, and all the equipment as well. So you've got your regulator, your BCD, your buoyancy control device. You've got a wetsuit if you need it to wear as well. You've got all that hired for nothing for that price at $170. And I thought, and then they've got to get paid because there's 2 of them. There's a person that takes you on the dive. There's actually 2 people that take you on the dive, and there's a person on the boat. There's 3 people.
Right.
Because you're only 4 each that you've got. So there's 8 people, and we're paying that. And then I worked out their rate as well. I'm thinking, okay, they're getting paid a certain amount. Now, they can't get paid $20 an hour. There's no way they could survive on that and be able to live in the British Virgin Islands area, unless they're living in a shed or a tent. So they've got to get paid more than that. And then I worked all that out, and I thought, how the hell are they going to make money? So what did we do at the end of it? So Kevin and I says, I tell you what, we'll give them $150 each extra. That's what money allows you to do.
Yeah.
To pay people what they should be getting paid rather than what they have to get paid because that's all they can get away with. It's the same when I went to Spain and I went over to Portugal the other now. It's like that's €70. What? €70? There's only 3 of us out. €210. There's 2 of you and there's a boat. And there's 2 tanks each for 2 dives. How could you survive on that? So I just gave them another €100.
And I bet they were
that's the going rate.
Yeah.
And admittedly, George Sateman says, you didn't do this for the money, you do it for the love of it. And she's right.
Well, that's bringing us to purpose and passion and things as well. They obviously do it.
They do it for the love of it, but the problem is it's not properly compensated, and that's what money affords you to do, to pay the people what you think it's worth, rather than what they can get away with. That's all. And generally, for these industries, because there's so many of them, and there's so many people that love what they do, it's the same with a estate agency.
Yeah.
It's like estate agencies, like, you know, there's bargain basement box shifters that are like, it's 500 quid. What? It was 600 quid when I sold my house 40 years ago.
Yeah,
and you're charging 500 quid 40 years later. That's impossible. But that's what affects everybody else, because everybody else thinks we should compete. Oh, I can get it for 500 quid. Oh, well, bugger off and get it for 500 quid then, because you're not getting it for me. In fact, why did I come out?
It cost me 500
quid coming to see you.
You were going to say that, yeah. But the response from your instructor on that's really good, because they obviously saying it's for the love of it. They love doing it. But it's finding that purpose, and your purpose is usually derived from something that you've had as a pain situation or a pain receptor, and then that kind of leads you to probably your passion and what you do, and then it's your passion itself that will then push you forward.
That's why people become doctors, because maybe somebody in their family. That's why people become psychologists, because they've been bullied when they're younger. So they become therapists to people that are bullied. That's why people get involved in drug rehabilitation, because they were maybe drug addicts before and they've reformed themselves. So they get involved in that. So the pain that they've encountered has actually benefited someone else in their purpose for life and helping other people avoid or get better than where they were. Because if they can do it, they can show someone else how to do it. See how even that works in that industry? The only way you can teach anybody else to be wealthy or rich is if you're wealthy or rich yourself, not if you've got personal possessions like fancy cars and flash houses. If you want that, I could show you how to get that easily. It's called hire purchase. Hire it. Pay for it. Contract purchase plan. You know, personal payment plan. Pay 250 quid, 300 quid a month to a finance company, and you can have that fancy car anytime you want. You want a house, get the biggest mortgage you can get a hold of and pay through the nose like 1,500 quid a month or £2,000 a month for it. But that'll be the rest of your life, by the way. Whereas live within your means, buy the house that you need, and instead of paying £2,000 out a month, pay 800 quid out a month, take the other 1,200, invest it every month, and then 1,200 multiplied by 12 is £14,000 a year you've got to invest. After 10 years, you've got £140,000 a year, but you've not, because you've invested it. So more than likely, your £140,000 after 10 years will be 200 to 250,000. After 20 years. 30 years, 40 years. 40 years, by the way, after 40 years, if you grow it by 10%, it'll be about 6 million.
Yeah, and that's an example of smart ways to be profitable.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Nobody believes that. Nobody thinks that's true until you write it down on paper and you go, "Oh my God, it is." It's like, this is how does nobody else do this? Exactly. But we can't all. Well, somebody needs to wash the car.
No, you're right.
We can't all do it, and some people don't want to pay the price. Everybody wants to stand in the queue of the £1 million, but nobody wants to stand in the queue of the effort you've got to put in to get it.
Yeah, and we talk about the smart ways of being profitable, but it's understanding compounding as well, because that example you just said there, it's clearly the compounding effect of that money over time.
Compounding.
Yeah.
8th wonder of the world.
Yeah. Good. I'm going to round up. Just obviously, we're talking about pain and purpose and profit and prosperity, and I think we had quite a good example of how your pain could be transported into your purpose and ultimately make that profitable. And let your pain really work for you and leverage that up for your own financial position and your own financial freedom and quality of life. And that'll all change for the better if you do it and apply yourself correctly and find yourself at that point of readiness to move forward, like what we used as an example in your story, Jim. And I think we'll wrap it up there. I think that was quite good.
Perfect.
Thanks for jumping in the comments, guys. Thanks for that, Lucinda, and other guys that said hi. If we're doing the rerun or whatever and there's other questions, we will answer them when we can. But other than that, we'll be back next Monday, as usual, at 12:30 for the Wealth Creation Show.
Bye for now.
Thanks, Jim. Bye.